morning. Today we are concerned with our third chapter from the grammar, and this chapter is relating about the past events, talking about the past events. So for the past event, what we need to know is the structures of past tense. We have four different varying structures for the past tense. The first one is the simple past. The structure for this is like I ate an apple. We have V2 here. This is the structure for simple past where we have the verb to, and this verb to is neither followed by any of the auxiliary verbs. We have the object. For example, I flew over the mountains. Now this flew is talking about the past tense. Here if we write eat, this becomes the present tense. If we write fly, this becomes the present tense. But with the past tense, we are supposed to use V2. So the simple past is about V2. So we have another form, that is past continuous. Now for the past continuous, we have the structure was, were plus V4. That is, I was eating an apple. I was flying over the mountains. Here what we see is this V2 is now with the auxiliary verb, that is was plus V4. Was plus V4. This type of structure is to talk about something that was going on in the past. So the things continuous in the past, we indicate it with the help of past continuous. After the past continuous, we have another structure that is past perfect. This is had plus V3. This structure comes with subject plus had plus V3 plus object. Like for example, I had. Now V3 for fly is flown. I had flown over the mountains. I had eaten an apple. Now here for the perfect tense, we tell using the had plus V3. Had plus V3. So perfect structure to talk about something that had completed in the past, we use this third structure, that is of the past perfect. Now we have the fourth structure, and that is of past perfect continuous. For this structure we use had been plus V4. That is, I had been flying over the mountains. I apple. Now these are the four different structures for the past tense. In one case, with the simple past, we have subject plus V2 plus object. In the second case, this is for simple. Now for continuous, we have subject plus was, were plus V4 plus object. And for past perfect, we have subject plus had plus V3 plus object. And finally, for the perfect continuous, we have subject plus had plus been plus V4 plus object. So this is how we have varying different syntaxes for different context of the past tense. And today our chapter concerns about the past tense. And in the first part, what we are observing is now the first thing that we are learning is to relate past situations to previous events. The first thing we are going to learn is how to relate the past or the situation of the past to the event that preceded that situation. We have the situation, and now we are going to relate this situation with the preceding event. One event is related to its predecessor event, or say one event is related to the other event of the past. So here basically what we are doing is we are relating two different events of the past. So how do we do that? We do that by combining the past perfect and simple past. We combine the past perfect and the simple tense to talk about the past situation relating it to the previous events. In your book, what's given is when John arrived at the resort, the season had already finished. When John arrived at the airport, the season had already finished. The season had already finished. Here what we see is this is the event that happened in the past. This is the event, the situation that happened in the past. And before this event, this had already happened. Now here what we are doing is we are relating two different events of the past. There are two different events. John arrived, and before John arrived there, the season ended. That means John arrived, and before this event had already occurred. So how we presented this is, we presented the first situation with the help of simple past, and we added the previous event that preceded this situation with the help of past perfect. For example, the teacher arrived for the class, but the students had gone out. Now the student arrived for the class. This is one event that happened in the past. Teacher arrived in the class, but before teacher's arrival, student had already left the room, already vanished out from the room. And now for this context, what we are doing is, we are using subject plus V2, and here we have had plus V3. That means we are fusing simple tense and the past perfect. So to mention about the situation that happened in the past, we use the simple. And to talk about the event, previous event that occurred before this event, we use the past perfect tense. For example, the rescue helicopter reached the spot, but the man had died out. The rescue helicopter reached the spot. This is the event of the past. But before the helicopter reached there, the man had died out. Now what is being done here is, we are relating two different events of the past. We are relating to one event of the past, and we are relating to the event that happened before this event started. See here, before John arrived, the season had already finished. Before the teacher arrived, students had already gone out. Before the helicopter reached for the rescue, the man died. So here we have two events. One event occurred, but before that event, something else happened. So to relate these type of circumstances, these type of events, where we have two events in the past, but before the one event completes, the other event is already finished, over. So to relate these two events, we fuse the simple past with the past perfect. What we do is, first we mention the event that happened lately, and that event is presented through simple past. And now after that, the event that happened before this event is presented through the past perfect tense. Let's check out the examples from your book. When John arrived at the resort, the season had already finished. Here again we see two different events. John arrived at the resort. John arrived. This is one of the event of the past. But this John, before the arrival of John, the season had passed away. The season had already finished. So here we see two events. Season finished and then the John arrived. now to talk about these events. One happened and then this event is followed by the other. What we did is, we presented the arrival of John in simple past and we discussed about the end of the season with the help of past perfect. Let's see another example. The weather had turned cold and wet and most of the hotels had closed for the winter. He decided to drive on further south. Now here, one man is driving. He drove to somewhere. He decided to drive south. Now the man decided to drive south. Why? Because some event had happened there earlier than his decision. There the resort hotels were all closed. Now this closing of the event, the closing of the hotels happened earlier to this man's decision of driving to south. And now here what we observe is, the decision of driving is the recent event and that event is presented in simple past, whereas the things that happened before this event, the things that precedes this event, the events because of which this event is followed are mentioned in past perfect tense. Okay, so let's read the first paragraph in your book, that's 21. I'd like to read that. And let's check out what he is doing with how the simple past and the past perfect is being fused together. Julius Straton was late. The Tartan army had planted a bomb at Heathrow, and Julia, who had gone the long way round the past airport to avoid the usual congestion on the approach road to M13, had been delayed for 2 hours by the police and army checkpoints. I went to the restaurant. The restaurant had cleaned the table for me. I sat there and had my breakfast. Now what I am doing is, I went to the restaurant. This is the simple past. This is the event. But before this event happened, the restaurant workers have done something. What have they done? They have cleaned the table. Now what I say, I went to the table and I see that table is cleaned. This thing is already done before my event happened. So the thing that is done before my event happens, I am supposed to present that in past perfect tense. Past perfect tense are especially used to talk about those events whose effects had been carried in the past frame of time. In the past frame of time, when the effects of the action is being carried, we use the past perfect tense for the explanation of these type of contexts. After that comes the issue of past continuous and the simple past. Okay, so now we need to learn the use of past continuous and past perfect tense. Past continuous is about had plus been plus V4. Had plus been plus V4. the second thing that we need to know is the use of past continuous and past perfect. Past continuous is had been plus V4. This is had plus V3. For example, had been drinking, had drunk, had drank. So, had flown, let's say, had been eating, eaten. Had been eating and had eaten. How do we use this tense? For example, past continuous is used to talk about the event that had not completed in the past moment of time. We talk about the events that were going on with the help of past continuous tense. With the help of past perfect continuous. We talk about something that has been carried from the unknown time to that moment of time in the past till you have observed. For example, this is 2077, but say up to 2075 I had driven a car. For example, from 2072 to 75 I drove a car. Now someone saw me in 2075 driving a car. Now what would this person say here? I saw Saul driving a car. That means if someone saw me here driving a car, the same car, say I am driving a Fiat, and here too the man saw me driving a Fiat. Now this man would say that Saul had been driving the Fiat car. This means in the past the things is continuous. At what time it started? Either the person may know this or may not know this. But the person is sure that since the time to this point, I have been doing this activity in the past. So to talk about the activities that have been carried, that had been carried till the moment of time in the past, we use the past perfect continuous. He had been, when I met him, he had been teaching. When we met, he had been teaching. Now, when we met, he was teaching, but I don't know since when he started teaching. But I know that something has been continuous up to that moment of time. Saul had been driving a Fiat car. That means up to this moment of time, something is being carried on. Saul is continuing something. You don't know when it started. So now to talk about those type of situations in which we do not know the starting point, or sometimes we may know the starting point, but the thing is being carried till date. Not till date, say till the moment of time you observed in the past. For example, I stayed in Lalitpur. There people had been busy in jatras. Now people are busy in Jatra since the immemorial time. And they were busy till the moment of time I observed them. So to talk about such a thing which was continuous till the moment of time you observed, till the time you were the witness, those type of things are talked using the present perfect continuous structure. For example, in your book it's given, they had been walking all morning. They had been walking all mornings. Now these people walk mornings every day in the past scenario. I don't know from when they were walking, but I definitely know that they had been doing this. They were doing that continuously in the past. The second sentence goes, they had been camping for 3 days. When I went there, they had been camping for 3 days. Now, the event started 3 days ago in the past. But till the moment I saw the event, I witnessed the event was not over. The event was still being carried. So to talk about such a thing of the past, which was in a continuous state till you observed it, we use the present perfect continuous to talk about it. Something that have happened in the past but was in a continuous status till I or the speaker observes the subject. So now, after that is the past perfect. To talk about, so when do we use past perfect? We use past perfect to talk about the situations whose effects were carried in the past. In the first condition, the effect is not only the effect is carried, but the action is itself being carried till the moment of time you observed in the past. Here, the action had ended. The action already completes itself, but the effect carries on. For example, when I was asked for the breakfast, I had eaten. Now someone, imagine one of you student asked me for a breakfast. Sir, would you like to have a breakfast with us? Imagine you asked that yesterday. Now at that moment of time yesterday, I had my breakfast couple of minutes ago. Now in that moment of time, the having of breakfast is complete, but the effect is still there. My stomach was full till the time, at the moment of time, the student asked me about the food. So with the past perfect, we talk about such a scenario whose effect is being carried till the moment in the past, whose action is completed, the doing, carrying of the action has been over there, but the effect is being carried. We used past perfect to talk about these type of structures. For example, he walked 10 miles. He had walked 10 miles. Now, in the past, I saw a man. When I saw this man had already walked 10 kilometers. This man had completed the action of walking. But when I saw him, his legs were swelling. He was tired and exhausted. Now what I say is, this man had walked 10 kilometers. Now this man had completed the action of walking in the past. But this action does have some remains of the effect in him. And this remains, this effect whenever the action is completed in the past moment of time, but the effect is being carried, we use present perfect. So now these two tense, let's understand this way. This is present perfect continuous had been eating to indicate the action that had been carried along, right? So to indicate the continuous action that was happening in the past, we talk about the past perfect continuous. Now when the action is not carried, rather the action has completed, but the effect is remaining there, but the result of the action is still prominent, still visible, we use the past perfect. So for the carrying on of the effects, if the effect had been carried along or to the point of that time, we use perfect tense. And if it is about the action that is being carried till the moment of time, we use past perfect continuous. So there are this difference between these two tense. Perfect continuous tense carries, indicates, signifies the events being carried in the past moment of time, whereas this past perfect tense carries the experience, carries the effects of the action. In this case, the action is completed. Action have to be over, but the effect should remain there. So to talk about specific moment of the past where experience, effect is being carried, we use the past perfect tense. And to talk about those moment of time where not the result, effect is being carried, rather the whole action is being carried, we use the past perfect continuous. For example, when I met my friend, I had been teaching computer. So in the past, at the moment when I met the friend, I was teaching a computer. But this action was not being conducted there at that moment of time. Rather, this action is being carried. This action started somewhere else, and till the date I met my friend, the action has not completed. In the second case, we say, I had flown a helicopter. Now, when I met my friend, I had flown a helicopter. Now, when I met my friend, at that moment of time, I had already flown a helicopter. The job of flying the helicopter was over. The task of flying above the mountains, over the clouds was over. Now, the effect was there with me. The experience was there with me. So, this is how we talk about the effect using the past perfect, and we talk about the continuous action using the past perfect continuous. This is all we are doing today. For tomorrow, it's better if you go with the background. Tomorrow I am teaching you the defining, non-defining relative clause. I am teaching you what is a relative clause and what is a defining relative clause and a non-defining relative clause. Now let's take a small example today just for the introduction. Now let's have the brief introduction about the topic that we are going to discuss tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to discuss defining and non-defining relative clauses. Now before that, before you come to know what is the relative and the defining and non-defining relative clause, better you come understanding some of the terminologies. Understand phrase, clause, relative clause, defining and non-defining. So these are the things that you search tomorrow and come to class so that you will have the clear understanding. Let me give the basic example. For example, I say my car, which is blue. My car, which is blue, is expensive. And again I say my car, which is parked outside the building, is mine. Here we see in this case of sentence and in this case of sentence we have two different notions. Here in this case, the second case, we are being provided with the information which car is exactly mine, right? So we are being provided the information related to the identification of this car. So whenever we are provided this vital information about the identification, we call it the defining relative clause. And when the does not tell necessary information about the car, which is blue, is expensive, these informations are not telling the necessary things about the car. So these informations are non-defining relative. This sentence is non-defining relative clause. So we understand defining and non-defining relative clause from two different issues. One is so we identify defining and non-defining relative clause by the information that it provides. If it provides the essential information for the recognition of the object and a listener is provided about the information that makes a reader recognize the object, then that is the defining clause. But it does not aid to the recognition, rather adds few of the elements there, that is non-defining. So this is all that we need to know today. For today we are done and hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow you are coming with all these things studying and we will discuss that in tomorrow's class. Thank you, class.